In the early 2000s, Leonard Anderson, better known by his street moniker L'A Capone, relocated to Atlanta to live with his father. The move was primarily driven by his mother's desire to remove him from the escalating violence and gang activity that had become commonplace in his hometown of Chicago. This decision came at a time when Chicago's streets were increasingly controlled by various violent gangs, and Leonard's future, like that of many young men in his situation, seemed tied to that harsh environment. In Atlanta, Leonard found a fresh start. He thrived academically, quickly establishing himself as one of the top students in his class. However, his time in Atlanta was not merely about academics. It was also where he forged significant connections in the music industry. He became close friends with rising rapper Lil Yachty, with Lil Yachty maintaining close contact with Leonard's brother. In addition to his friendship with Yachty, Leonard also crossed paths with members of the OMG Girls, a rap group featuring the daughters of prominent rappers Lil Wayne and T.I. These early connections to the music world would play a significant role in Leonard's future career, though it would take a while for him to fully embrace this path. After spending several years in Atlanta, Leonard returned to Chicago, where he reconnected with the individuals who would become part of the 600 Gang, the group he would eventually call his own. By 2009, Leonard had become involved in street-level activities, beginning to carry firearms and participating in the daily violence that was a hallmark of gang life in Chicago. By 2010, Leonard was no longer just a bystander, but an active participant in gang activities. He fought daily, robbed people, and navigated the dangerous world of Chicago's street gangs. However, he had not yet crossed the line into taking lives. His rivalries were primarily physical and involved altercations with individuals like FBG Butter, LA Tay 600, and Lil D. Leonard also had frequent clashes with rivals like Tuka and Tutu, two figures who were often caught lacking, meaning vulnerable to attack. Around 2011, Leonard began dabbling in rap, but his commitment to the craft was not yet serious. It wasn't until 2012 that Leonard's music began to gain significant traction. As his songs garnered more attention and his fan base grew, his name began to circulate in the industry. His talent caught the attention of some of the biggest names in music, including T.I., Bruno Mars, Lupe Fiasco, and Rondo No. 9. These industry connections provided a glimpse of the potential future Leonard could have had if he chose to pursue music full-time. But the violence of his past continued to hold him captive. While Leonard was navigating the complex and violent world of 600, another story was unfolding in Chicago. The Kebe brothers, Omar and Muhammad, originally hailed from Gambia, having moved to the United States with their family in search of a better life. Their family settled in Chicago, and for nearly 2 decades, they lived without incident. However, as the 2010s approached, the brothers began to fall under the influence of the One World set, a faction of the Gangster Disciples. This set was known for its connections to the mob gang, and as the tension between the mob and 600 grew, the Kebe brothers became embroiled in the escalating violence. By 2010 or 2011, Omar and Muhammad's affiliation with the Gangster Disciples was becoming well known. Their older brother confirmed their involvement with the gang, and soon, they became key figures in the conflict between 600 and mob. D-Tang, a prominent figure in 600, began to retaliate against mob, leading to frequent shootouts between the two factions. The violence escalated further with the murders of 600 members Baldy and Lil Steeve, both of whom were killed in quick succession, further intensifying the already volatile feud. As the conflict raged on, both 600 and Front Street became familiar with the faces of Omar and Muhammad, who had become symbols of the growing divide between the two gangs. Omar was known by the street name ODI, while Muhammad went by Moo Money. When Omar reached adulthood and began moving independently, he aligned himself with the Ispat faction of the Gangster Disciples. However, for L'A Capone and Front Street, Omar would always be associated with the group responsible for the deaths of Baldy and Lil Steeve. The rivalry between 600 and Mob reached its peak in early 2012, when L'A Capone, seeking revenge for the murders of his friends, went on a mission to find those responsible. Although many within 600 believe that mob members like Damo, Clean, or both were responsible for killing Baldy, L'A Capone took matters into his own hands. He was out in Mob and Von World's territory, looking for any opportunity to strike when he caught Omar lacking. This encounter led to L'A Capone killing Omar, a tragic moment for two young men whose lives had been shaped by violence and whose parents had hoped they would escape it. L'A Capone was not the only one seeking justice for the deaths of 600 members. Lil Scrap, who was believed to be responsible for killing Lil Steeve, became a prime target for L'A Capone. However, Lil Scrap was arrested for the murder and, despite his association with the crime, eventually beat the charges. By the time he was released, L'A Capone had shifted his focus away from street violence and toward his music career. Yet, the cycle of revenge did not end. One of L'A Capone's close friends, Dada from Front Street, made a promise to avenge Lil Steeve's death. Dada took matters into his own hands and shot Lil Scrap, though Scrap survived the attempt. This, in turn, led to further violence when KI from Front Street retaliated, shooting and wounding Dada. As 2012 drew to a close, Muhammad's involvement in shootings on Front Street did not go unnoticed. His actions caught the attention of Nino and Kona from Front Street, who walked up to him and shot him multiple times, ending Muhammad's life. The tragic deaths of both Omar and Muhammad caused their family to reevaluate their future in Chicago. Fearing for their safety, their parents, along with their older brother, made the difficult decision to leave Chicago and return to the Gambia, very place they had once fled in search of a better life. This story serves as a stark reminder of the destructive power of gang violence, where young lives are claimed, families are shattered, and the cycle of revenge continues. The Kebab brothers, Leonard Anderson, and countless others fell victim to a world shaped by drugs, guns, and senseless rivalry. My condolences go out to the families affected by this violence, particularly the Kebab family, who lost two sons in a tragic and preventable way. Their story is a painful reflection of the harsh realities many face, and it is one that underscores the importance of breaking the cycle of violence that continues to plague communities. Rest in peace to all those who lost their lives in this tragic narrative. That concludes today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're alerted whenever a new video drops. It's completely free and helps out the channel tremendously. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.